Cocaine cafes, heroin vending machines, and ecstasy dispensaries might be lining the streets of Mexico. Sounds like a dystopian nightmare, right? But that's the reality millions are envisioning as Mexico debates the unthinkable: legalizing all drugs. Is this the ultimate surrender to cartels, or a strategic chess move dismantling their empires from within? Will it trigger a wave of addiction across North America, or pave the way for a safer, healthier future? We'll explore all these in today's video. The debate around decriminalizing drugs has been ongoing for quite some time now. Recently, it's been picking up steam across continents like Europe, Asia, and America. Some Canadian provinces have already taken steps in this direction, following Portugal's example, where drugs were decriminalized back in 2001, and it's been largely successful. In addition, several U.S. states, along with countries like Canada, South Africa, Uruguay, and others, have legalized the recreational use of cannabis. However, while much attention is given to large drug-consuming countries, like the U.S., there's often less focus on the nations responsible for producing and trafficking these drugs to meet the demand of wealthier nations. Mexico is one such example. But Mexico's history with drugs is quite intriguing. For years, its illegal cannabis industry has mainly served the demand in the U.S. In 2017 alone, the U.S. Border Patrol seized a staggering amount of marijuana at the Mexican border. This lucrative trade has long been a major source of income for drug cartels. While exact figures may be hard to come by, a 2007 U.S. government report estimated that cannabis trafficking from Mexico into the United States brought in around $10 billion, surpassing the earnings from cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine combined. Efforts to curb this flow of drugs have been ongoing since Richard Nixon's presidency. However, initiatives like Operation Intercept, which aim to tighten border security to pressure Mexico into cracking down on drug trafficking, have proven ineffective in the long run. Back in the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan sent the Drug Enforcement Administration to tackle drug issues along the border. After one of his agents was killed, he launched Operation Intercept II, which was basically a repeat of the first operation. But unfortunately, neither of these efforts had the desired effect. The U.S. continued with secret operations in Mexico until 1998. However, a major undercover money laundering bust that year embarrassed the government and led to new rules for how the DEA could operate in Mexico. Despite various attempts, such as economic pressure and cooperation, the United States didn't see much success. Meanwhile, while the U.S. was tightening border enforcement, Mexico was actually loosening its own drug laws. Mexico made small amounts of marijuana legal for personal use in 2009. However, legal challenges followed, arguing against laws banning the cultivation and sale of recreational marijuana. Eventually, the Supreme Court of Mexico sided with these arguments, ruling that these laws violated Mexicans' rights. After numerous court rulings declaring the law invalid, the government was ordered to rewrite the laws just before López Obrador took office in October 2018. In the legislature, various plans were proposed to push ahead with legalization. However, over time, it became clear that any legalization plan needed to be realistic about what it could achieve. When Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, often referred to as AMLO, won the presidency in 2018, he did so by making a sensible and cautious promise to end the costly drug war. This promise resonated with voters tired of the violence that had claimed the lives of around 150,000 people over 12 years. AMLO pledged to tackle criminal gangs by addressing social justice issues, advocating for a strategy of hugs, not bullets. Once in office, he outlined a 5-year plan emphasizing the need for a new paradigm in justice. This plan recognized that neither the police nor the military alone could eliminate the demand for drugs within Mexico, nor in countries like the United States, which served as major markets. Drug reform supporters praised AMLO as a forward-thinking leader. However, despite the optimism surrounding AMLO's approach, there are still many who question the policy, discussing both its potential benefits and drawbacks. Now, if you're liking what you're seeing so far, subscribe to the channel for more updates. Now you see, the specter of legalizing all drugs looms over Mexico, a nation long ravaged by cartel violence fueled by the war on drugs. This radical proposition, while seemingly audacious, sparks a crucial debate. Can decriminalization offer a solution, or is it a Pandora's box waiting to unleash chaos? As we've already discussed, in 2009, Mexico took a bold step, decriminalizing possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use. This wasn't legalization, but a shift from criminalizing individuals to focusing on public health and harm reduction. The results? Arrests plummeted, freeing resources for rehabilitation and prevention programs. Violence dipped as cartels lost control over a significant portion of the market. This Mexican experiment echoes similar steps taken globally. Portugal decriminalized all drugs in 2001, leading to a drastic drop in drug use, HIV infections, and overdose deaths. Switzerland's heroin-assisted treatment program offers addicts regulated doses, reducing crime and improving their health. These examples paint a hopeful picture, suggesting decriminalization can weaken cartels, reduce harm, and pave the way for effective treatment. But concerns linger. Will increased availability fuel addiction? Studies suggest a moderate rise in drug use after decriminalization, but not an explosion. Additionally, regulated markets could offer safer products, reducing risks associated with contaminated street drugs. The economic impact is another crucial factor. Taxing and regulating drugs could generate significant revenue, funding addiction treatment and social programs. This shift could cripple cartel finances, further disrupting their operations. However, navigating this path requires careful planning. Uruguay's model of government-controlled marijuana dispensaries offer a framework, but concerns about creating monopolies and black markets remain. Robust regulations and public education are vital to ensure responsible use and prevent exploitation. The ethical dimension cannot be ignored. Should drug use be tolerated, or is it a societal ill requiring intervention? This debate reflects fundamental values with no easy answers. However, decriminalization doesn't endorse drug use. It simply prioritizes public health and harm reduction over criminal punishment. Ultimately, the decision rests with Mexico. The potential benefits are undeniable: reduced violence, improved public health, and economic opportunities. But the challenges are real, demanding careful implementation and a nuanced approach. But the other side, the side of decriminalization posing serious concerns, cannot be ignored. Would decriminalization unleash a wave of crime, turning streets into lawless battlegrounds? Studies paint a complex picture. Critics point to Colombia's decriminalization of small amounts of cocaine in 2016, followed by a rise in petty theft and public drug use. They argue that this could strain police resources and embolden criminal activity. And there's an additional concern, not for Mexico, but its neighbor, the U.S. The U.S. shares a long, porous border with Mexico. Could decriminalization there create a drug haven, spilling over into American communities, exposing children to increased access and temptation? This concern isn't unfounded. The porous border already facilitates drug trafficking, and increased availability in Mexico could exacerbate the problem. Critics also point to specific examples where decriminalization didn't deliver on its promises. South Africa's decriminalization of cannabis in 2020 coincided with a rise in gang violence, raising concerns about potential unintended consequences. However, it's crucial to consider the context. South Africa's decriminalization lacked robust regulations and public education, potentially contributing to the negative outcomes. This highlights the importance of careful planning and implementation to avoid similar pitfalls. But there's an intriguing aspect which we would like to mention, and it's related to a Mexican state. In Guerrero, a mountainous state in the southern part of Mexico, many people rely on poppy cultivation to make ends meet. This agrarian state is among Mexico's poorest, with an average yearly income of less than $6,000, and it consistently faces high rates of violence. When the poppy business is booming, the gum extracted from these plants, used to produce heroin, could sell for nearly $600 per pound, providing a swift escape from poverty. However, the market crashed with the arrival of fentanyl. As demands for opioids surged in the United States, so did the supply from Mexico. Poppy cultivation peaked in 2017, with estimates suggesting around 109,000 acres of poppy fields spread across approximately 170 square miles in Mexico. In 2017, before the fentanyl crisis, the cultivation of poppies alone brought in roughly $1 billion for Guerrero and its neighboring areas, which include some of Mexico's most impoverished communities. In 2016, Guerrero's governor, Hector Astudillo floated the idea of transitioning some of these poppy fields into legal ventures. Since opium gum from these plants can be used to manufacture legal pharmaceuticals, Astudillo suggested regulating the fields for medical purposes. While the profit might not be as high, it would provide farmers with security, sparing them from worries about their fields being destroyed by the authorities. After some persuasion, Astudillo managed to convince the state legislature to pass a bill in 2018, proposing the decriminalization of opium poppies for medical purposes. The bill was then forwarded to the federal Senate for approval. Surprisingly, support for the idea came from an unexpected source: Mexico's defense minister, General Salvador Cienfuegos, who remarked that the idea seemed reasonable during a visit to Guerrero that year. Although the bill is reportedly being reviewed, it's not made significant progress in the Senate. However, the concept has resurfaced in discussions surrounding the Mexican government's efforts to legalize marijuana. But well, there's a deadlock, and many are still questioning the pros and cons of the drugs. The current war on drugs has demonstrably failed, leaving Mexico and its neighbors ravaged by violence and addiction. Decriminalization, while not without risks, offers a potentially transformative approach. It requires courage, careful planning, and a willingness to learn from successes and failures. The decision before Mexico is not simply yes or no, but how. Choosing the right path, paved with rigorous research, informed public discourse, and international cooperation, could offer a chance to break free from the shackles of the war on drugs. Ignoring the potential, clinging to the status quo, might condemn future generations to the same cycle of violence and despair. Remember, the future is not predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today. So what do you guys think? Do let me know in the comments. And if you want more economic insights, do watch our video on the Venezuela-Guyana conflict. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates.